Hey, everybody, please help me out. Subscribe to the podcast.
Brandon?
Um, yes, Dean. NASA is like a major employer up in the Huntsville area. They're leading the engineering effort on the space launch system that's supposed to take, man back to the moon and then maybe Mars beyond that. In the past, you've been critical of NASA. Have you moderated your position any there, or is it still an issue?
Well, you see, again, I think that's a misrepresentation of my position on NASA. My position is that being a government agency, they lie about certain things and they have waste. And there's some foolishness that goes on there. But they have a military application that's very important. Now, my conclusions about NASA have come from spending many days, and I'm talking about I have spent days where I get up in the morning with a cup of coffee and sit down at the computer and go through NASA technical manuals, reading them from beginning to end, and also looking at FOIA documents from NASA and the government space programs and all this stuff. So I have spent many hours of research into what NASA actually does and what they don't do. So just remember that there's a PR campaign so that they can keep getting $70 million a day to spend. And then there's what they actually do, which a lot of it is top secret. But what they actually do is reconnaissance missions. They're really part of the CIA spying over countries. That's what every program has been. We didn't go to the moon. That's absolutely easily provable now. There's hundreds of millions of people across the world that actually looked at the evidence without the American pride blinding them. And they've looked at the evidence and no, we didn't do it. We're not going back. If we do, it's going to be a show. And bottom line is that, scientists before the alleged moon landing in 69, all scientists that were being honest believed that the moon was some type of plasma electric type of phenomena, and so on down the line. So what I'm saying is that I look at things when it comes to the nature of the heavens and the earth and the cosmos and everything at through the lens of the Bible, the scriptures, what it says about the creation, and I look at it through the lens of what I can actually find as documented truth. And I have documents that were top secret, formerly top secret, that have been declassified through FOIA request. And I've had read NASA technical manuals, and I know the truth. So I know what NASA does, and we need what they do. Okay. I know the BS that they tell us, some of the BS they tell us that they do that they don't do. So out of most people sitting in the room, I've probably spent more time than anybody I know actually looking at what they actually do and what they don't do. And I'm all for what they do. I mean, we need them to do these reconnaissance missions in what they call space too is it's a different phenomena than what they tell us. And we could go into all that. But bottom line, I know what they do. And listen to this. What's funny is people at the top of the food chain in NASA know what I'm saying is true because they admit it in their documents. But they don't want people on lower levels to know, and they don't want the public to know what they know. And because let me tell you what would happen. If NASA came out and actually told the full truth to the public about the nature of the heavens and earth, it would prove the Bible true in that there is a God. And most of that community is anti-God, anti-Bible, anti-Jesus, anti-Christ, we could say. That system is. So I'm sorry, but I don't believe that nothing exploded and created everything over 14 billion years. I don't believe we came from monkeys. I believe there is a God in heaven that created the heavens and the earth, and I believe that he made the heavens and the earth just like he said, and it's provable. And, that's why I've given lectures at conferences, and I have written a 479-page book that documents all this, that absolutely documents the evidence. And I have physics professors, former lieutenant colonels who taught at West Point. I have Navy missile instructors. I have captains who work for Schwarzkopf. I mean, I have so many educated people who are in high levels, doctors in physics, and high levels of our military that know I'm telling the truth and come to me and said, yeah, this is what it is. And so um, I know, again, the public's been deceived about a lot of things over the years, and one is about the nature of creation. And just because you have on a white robe and call yourself a scientist does not mean you're honest or telling the truth about everything. And NASA does not tell the truth about everything. I mean, you want to tell something that's ridiculous. I can send you the videos of them, NASA artists admitting that they Photoshop stuff, that they create these images and things. Like, it's funny at Christmas time, all of a sudden they'll find, a nebula that looks like a Christmas tree. Or Halloween, they actually find a nebula that looks like a skull. It's just, it's almost laughable what they come up with sometimes. But they admit their own people, just like the data analysis guy who did the blue marble that was on the first iPhones, right? The blue marble, a picture of Earth, admits this is what he said in an interview, and I have it. He said it's Photoshop because it has to be. Well, wait a minute. I thought we could go way out there and take a picture back on this thing. No, he was admitting all their pictures have to be photoshopped, they have to be doctored, or they're just what they call, look, you can go on their website and look at a lot of their images and it says artist visualization or artist concept or image, not photograph, but image, or composite. So what I'm getting at is NASA puts out a lot of BS, PR, and they have to justify milking the American taxpayer $70 million a day. Their operation are primarily spy operations, recon missions. Now they don't have to have as many pilots because they can use the X-37B as the spy plane reconnaissance vehicle instead of using the space shuttle. That's why the space shuttle went out, because they don't no longer have to fly over Russia and China to take pictures higher and faster than before. They can use the X-37B now. So all of this, again, I document in books coming from the National Reconnaissance Office, coming from NASA, coming from the Army Research Laboratory, coming from the Navy, the Air Force. I mean, this is, again, all very documented. If I went to court with this stuff, I would win if I had an honest judge.
Now, when you say stuff,
Dean,
Dean, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Dean, you don't believe we went to the moon. Do you believe
Nope.
we've sent rovers to Mars and they're driving around the Mars surface?
No, I don't. It's a hoax. They got discovered where those things. There was a picture, and I pulled it off. I have it on a. I pulled it off NASA's website of a picture of Mars. You take that picture and you zoom in on one spot, and there's a little dead prairie dog there. So obviously they didn't tell us about the prairie dogs on Mars that can run around and survive on Mars, but there's a particular island called Devon Island that seems to match the topography that you see in the background of a lot of the rover shots, seem to match the background that they say is Mars. Well, guess what? On that little Devon Island in Canada that looks kind of red and looks kind of, there's little prairie dogs there. So NASA has been busted lying about stuff so many times. I mean, it's almost ridiculous, but you actually have to look past the mainstream media and actually go do some research yourself to find out that they admit some of these things. Just like all the telemetry data of the alleged moon landing, all of it. You would think that the most important event in man's scientific and technological advancement of going to the moon, that they would have all of that data, telemetry data and everything else saved in a earthquake proof, vault somewhere. Guess what? When people started asking for it, where is the telemetry data? Oh, it's all gone. It's all missing. These are facts. Why is it all missing? And then, of course, maybe you haven't seen the smoking gun of the documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon by Bart Sabrell. If you haven't seen that, you should watch it. But within that, he requested from NASA, he requested some film footage of the 1969 moon landing that he could use in his documentary. Well, either a whistleblower at NASA or somebody made a horrible mistake. They sent him about 10 minutes of footage of the Apollo 11 astronauts, obviously at high altitude in low Earth orbit, but they were hovering in a balloon carried capsule. Again, I document all this, but they're using the circular window of the cabin and they're backing up in the cabin. They turn all the lights off, and this is all three. I mean, Neil Armstrong, they're all there. They're talking to Houston Control. They're talking, and they say they're using the window, the circular window that's looking down on the Earth, and they back up and they take the camera, they back up in the cabin, turn all the lights off, and try to tell us that that's the Earth in space. That's why there's never any stars shown. And they got caught saying that the camera was right up against the window, but then an astronaut's arm gets between the camera and the window in the shot. And then we find out that the dates, they were supposed to be halfway to the moon. When they uncover it, they turn the lights back on. They're just in low Earth orbit. It is the smoking gun that we didn't go to the moon, and it's actual NASA footage that got leaked from there. This has been out for many years. This is common knowledge. There's Rocketdyne scientists that have written books. NASA mooned America. We didn't go to the moon. And they admit just one ridiculous thing. One ridiculous thing is back then, it takes in a tremendous amount of power, electrical power, to send a TV signal out. Okay. So back then, to send a TV signal 240,000 miles back to the Earth, they could not have carried enough batteries the size of Volkswagen Bugs up there to actually have enough power to broadcast 240,000 miles back to Earth. It's ridiculous. It's also when they landed on the moon and the pictures they took, you've got a 10,000-pound thrust engine, right? Landing on the moon with 1/6 gravity of Earth. There should have been a blast crater underneath that thruster. Was not there. When they took pictures up, there were no moon dust even on the feet of the lander. The pictures they took were too perfect, and a lot of times you're asking who took the picture, because when they were leaving, there was a camera that followed them. We didn't have cameras like that back then. We didn't have cameras back then either that could survive 250 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun and negative 250 degrees in the shade up there. It is just so many things that's just absolutely ridiculous about this. And that's why, right now, about 70% of Russians, and especially Russian young people, do not believe that we went to the moon. Two of the moon rocks that Neil Armstrong and the other guys gave to the Queen of Denmark or Sweden or somebody, two of the moon, they said, these are rocks from the moon, we're giving them. They actually tested them, and they are a petrified tree. They're not rocks from the moon. Okay. So again, they've lied so many times. They've been busted so many times. What blows my mind is how so many people in America still buy this charade that they pulled off in 1969, which now looks like a bad, special effects B or C movie. And it's not hard to figure out. But there's a lot of other things. The shadows going in multiple directions, showing different sources of light. Again, it's been absolutely proven to me that we didn't go, and that it was nothing but a hoax to try to get ahead of the Russians. It was more of a propaganda issue. But, again, I don't care if people disagree with me. That's fine if you disagree. But I have reasons why I believe that. It's not just conspiracy theories. I've looked at actual footage from the moon landing and documents and evidence. And it just, to me, it's just they didn't do it and they're not going to do it again. Um, and now, if they dare put on another show, just like Elon Musk putting that car up in space, the Tesla he put up in space. And man, the people who tear apart CGI and all this, it was so easy to do. And there were glitches that when he was doing it where it showed the car was in a studio and stuff. So it's that's why Elon said, "Oh, it must be real because it looks so fake."